It's time to get unstuck with the Dream Highway Podcast. Hello and welcome to the Dream Highway Podcast. This is episode 82, and I'm your host, Steve Pederson. Today, my very special guest is Robert Raymond Riopel. Robert is an international best-selling author, an app designer, that sounds really cool, entrepreneur and trainer who has spent the last 18 plus years traveling around the world and sharing his passion. He's also shared the stage with and trained many of the top trainers and thought leaders in the world today. With his high energy and heartfelt style, Robert draws on his journey from humble beginnings to financial freedom at the age of 32 to inspire individuals into tapping into their greatness. Realizing that he is not the only person that struggles, Robert's clues open individuals up to the possibilities that lie within them. And that is why he is a highly sought after presenter. Robert, welcome to the Dream Highway Podcast.
Thanks, Steve. I am so happy to be here because you and I have already been having fun well
Yes,
before we hit record. So I can only imagine what we're going to be doing while we're recording this.
I know this is, man, we're in for a treat today. I'm in for a treat. This is going to be awesome. I'm so glad you joined us. And yes, to be fair to our listeners, we have been yucking it up for a while here, and even on our previous call. So, man, this is going to be an absolute treat. Robert, is there anything that I didn't cover on that little intro there that you might like to enlighten us about? Maybe something a little special that we might not know, average person might not know?
Well, since we were on that cowboy theme earlier, just before this call, it was time to take one of my pets outside for the day. She's a princess. She doesn't know she's a princess. Well, no, she knows she's a princess, but she's a 265-pound pet pig. And her name is Gracie May. And I'll tell you, we've had her since she was 2 days old. She was just a teeny little thing. That's what you call one of those. I think they call the technical term is a foster fail, because we started bottle feeding her at 2 days old, and then we were gonna at 3 weeks old we were gonna take her and foster her for a little bit and help her find a good home. Well, she's almost 11 years old now, so yeah, we found her a good home, and she's an absolute princess. And so you don't dare wake her up before 1 o'clock in the afternoon, or she's a grumpy girl. So, yeah, just before this interview, my wife was like, "Honey, she's not wanting to get out of bed," and it's usually she gets out of bed for my wife. So I come up and I'm like, "Gracie," and she's like, I'm like, "Get out of bed," and she's like, and then away we go outside for her for the time outside.
And so she sleeps in the house?
Oh yeah, she's a house girl. I used to always say from stage, my pig thinks she's a dog, my dog thinks he's human, and all men are pigs. So it goes around in a great big circle.
Right. You got the circle of life right there.
Right. But my wife didn't like when I was saying that. So about 8 years ago, she bought me a bumper sticker. It's a big one, and it says, "Men are not pigs. Pigs are kind, caring, and gentle." And I'm like, ouch.
That makes me think of one of those lawyer jokes.
Right? So yeah,
That's
she's
so
an indoor
awesome.
girl. She's an absolute princess. Even her blankets are princess blankets.
That's so great, man. I've never had a guest who's had a pig for would you, it's so hard to say a pet. Would you say pet? It's like a family member though, right?
Well, she is. She's a family member. And what a lot of people don't realize is pigs are very smart and they're very clean. They get a bad rap. They are actually the 7th smartest animal in the world. And so I'll tell you, if there's something she doesn't want to do, there's a reason. One of my, for my wife and I, one of our bucket lists is we want to write a series of children's books based on her. And they'll actually be called The Adventures of Gracie May. And they'll be all real life stories from when she was 2 days old, when we started bottle feeding her, all the way to where she is now. And that's why it'll be a series, because some of the stuff I've learned, like focus. Man, there's no focus like a pig when they want something, and you're not dissuading her off of it. Tenacity. And so all these great lessons, and how quickly, like at 60 pounds, I quit picking her up to lift her in and out of the truck, because she goes camping, she goes everywhere with us. She gets the whole back seat. She's a princess. And when she hit 60 pounds, I'm like, I have bad back. I'm not lifting her anymore. It took my wife hot air popcorn and 5 minutes to teach her to walk up and down a ramp into the back seat. That's it. 5 minutes.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is there's no fear with pigs. They never learn fear. They know what they want. They get it.
Yep. Yeah. And don't ever try to discipline a pig. You've heard that saying pig-headed. Oh yeah. Everything's got to be absolutely done by positive reinforcement, because you don't understand the word pig-headed until you get a pig that's angry, and then it won't do anything, no matter what you say, nothing. So we learned that very early, is that it's all got to be positive reinforcement. And so she's a character, and she has her own personality. And people always laugh because it's like, as soon as you go, Gracie, time to go outside, she starts talking. And all the way out, let's go. Or if you come too near her bedroom and she thinks you're going to take her out, all of a sudden you hear, it's okay, Gracie, you're fine.
She's got the inflection and everything.
Oh, yeah. You can almost understand everything she's saying by how she does it.
So awesome. Now, here's a question. Does Gracie ever get lonely?
I don't know, because we have, 6 cats and 2 dogs as well.
Okay. I guess I meant like searching for the company of another,
Well, and
pig.
I think probably because we've had her since 2 days old, and she was the only one that made it out of a litter of 7. I don't know if she's ever known to be lonely that way.
Got it.
So
Yeah.
Oh, man, actually, thinking about it, a year when we had her for about 2 years, I was doing a camp on a farm, and we had her with us because she was in our RV, and we introduced her to other pigs, and she wanted nothing to do with them.
Really?
She's like, "What are you doing? Why are you near me?"
Yeah, so the princess thing has set in for sure.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
Oh man, how old is she again?
She's now about 11 years old. She's just about to turn 11.
Man.
And they live 20 to 25 years.
Okay.
Yeah, so definitely a long-term pet that you don't take on easily. So we educate a lot of people, because people are, I've always wanted a pet pig. Well, then you need to understand what you're getting, because they're not going to be like a dog where they're going to run around and want to cuddle on your lap. When they're younger, they do, but they're also, as adults, they sleep almost all day long. That's their main activity, is sleep, sleep, sleep. And like I said, I make it as a joke, but don't wake her up before 1, because she knows what time it is.
Yeah.
If we have to go somewhere where she's going to be, in for most of the day, we get her up early. Oh, and she's not a happy camper when you go to take her outside. And if it's cold weather, forget about it.
Forget it. And you're in Alberta, Canada.
I am.
And so now I'm not sure how far north that is, as far as like, when the sun, like in the summer, like, is it light a lot like it is in Alaska, or is it not that far?
Oh, no. We will get sun up now, even in the spring here. Sun up is just after 7, goes down right before 9. So we get a good 12, 13, 14 hours of sunlight. In the summertime, when we hit full summer, it'll be light up to about 10 even.
Yeah.
Wow. Nice long days.
Well, that sounds like such an amazing concept. What a gift, she has been to turn this into, I mean, obviously just having her is gift enough, but to turn that into some children's books, man, that sounds amazing. It sounds like a lot of fun.
Can't wait. Yeah, we can't wait to do that, because, to be able to educate people and do it from real life events, because it won't be made up stuff. It'll all be true stories.
Yeah. And to get that, I mean, I know a lot of children's books try to teach, some kind of moral lesson or something good. But who knows, where those authors, I can't say for sure, but the kind of experience that you've had, I just know that those books are going to be chock full of value.
No fun at all.
And no fun
They'll
whatsoever.
Be very serious. Yep,
There'll never be a time when Gracie May is wearing a cowboy hat.
Don't even get into the costumes for every Halloween. Come on now. When we lived in the city, picture this, when she was young, we lived in a city in Calgary, Alberta, where actually after we got her, we found out pigs were outlawed in the city because people were growing bacon in the backyard and they weren't taking care of them. And we were able to get a special permission where they came and they looked around our house and they inspected things. And they went, "Yeah, you're not eating her." And we're like, "What?" And she goes, well, that's why I had to inspect. I can tell that she's a pet and that you're not growing her for food. So they gave us
Yeah.
a special permit. And for the 6 years that we lived there, that we had her, every Halloween, usually you'd watch the families going down the street, and the parents would stay at the driveway, and the kids would go up and trick or treat. Well, at our house, the parents were up there as well. Is Gracie May here this year again? What is she dressed as? Because we'd sit her by the door, and when they'd open and they'd say trick or treat, well, the kids could feed her hot-aired popcorn before getting their treat if they wanted. And so Gracie loved Halloween, and she's
Oh,
been everything from a princess in a tutu to a zebra to a pumpkin. Yeah, my wife would dress her up different every year.
oh my gosh. How much fun is that? Oh, that's
That'll
so
be one of the
amazing.
books.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Gracie May does Halloween. Oh, cool, man. So what besides Gracie May, which I can imagine is enough for anybody, but what else do you got going on in your life right now that's got you fired up? It's got you all lit up.
Oh, it's just been the adjustment. As a trainer, BC before COVID, I was flying
Hmm.
200,000 miles a year on average around the world doing live trainings. That all changed. And there's two words that I use in my life all the time, Steve, that have served me well. And that's what's next.
Hmm.
Because so many people, if
Yeah,
a little change comes in, let alone the global change that happened, people will shut down and look at how many businesses went out of business, or because
yeah,
of this, I can't. And for us, I went from the majority of my revenue coming from being on stage around the world in front of live audiences, 20 events a year, 200,000 miles of flying, to all of a sudden zero.
yeah,
And yeah, I played victim for a first couple weeks. I absolutely did. But
yeah.
then all of a sudden, my wife and I, we said, well, what's next? And one of our dreams, we own a beautiful acreage that we bought years ago, but 3 years earlier, with the intent of someday building our own training center, so that
Okay.
instead of me traveling around the world, my students from around the world, because I love doing mentoring of trainers, I love developing people to really authentically communicate their message from stage or now via Zoom and stuff like that. And so we had planned on building this 5, 6, 7 years down the road. And so when we went, what's next? It's like, well, I'm home now.
Yeah.
We've got the time. And I'm now sitting in my office, and on the other side of my wall is a 1,500 square foot training center that we've turned into a Zoom room where I've got, two video walls. I've got multiple cameras. I can do live trainings now, a much smaller version of what Tony Robbins does, but I can now still be me and really have an energetic impact on my students for
Hmm.
multiple day trainings and not have to
Yeah.
sit at a computer to do it. I can stand, I can walk around, I can really get engaged the way I love to do. So that's what's going on in my world is we're doing the reinvention and finding ways to make it work and thrive so that
Yeah.
we can keep living our message.
That's a great question. What next? Um, yeah, because I think one of the things, incidentally, it's so funny that you mentioned that just last week. I'm not sure if you've ever heard of Rob Bell. He's kind of like a spiritual teacher. He came from like a pastoral background, but anyhow, he's just somebody that I follow. And he, obviously this is the dream highway. And he was doing an event where he said, we're going to talk about the problem with dreams. And I was like, oh, that's that got my ears perked up. That's like,
Yep.
I need to figure out what he's going to be talking about. So he was saying that, one of the problems with dreams is that the way people talk about them is that they just seem unattainable. And so instead of just talking about dreams, having dreams, we talk about what's the next step.
That's it. That's
Yeah.
exactly it. And that's why, like my first book, Success Left a Clue, which is an international best-selling book, I give 6 steps to create the life of your dreams, big life. And step number 3 is you have to take action. And
Mm-hmm.
even though I was big on dream boards and all that, even me, because one of the things that people need to understand, Steve, is even though I teach all over the world, have for 20 years, I'm still a student in as many audiences as I can be because
Yeah.
I know the moment I quit learning, I'm done.
Yeah.
So I'm constantly learning. I was even just before the interview, I was on I'm part of a mastermind that every week we're on a call at the same time every week with the same group of people learning stuff
Yeah.
and masterminding. And so, you know, one of my student, I was getting to know her right after COVID because we're now doing stuff online and that. And she said something that gave me a whole paradigm shift.
Mm-hmm.
She said, you've heard that dreams are just dreams. But dreams with action, that's your vision. And that's why she said she loves vision boards instead of dream boards. And I went, because I teach my
Yeah.
students, don't worry about the how you're going to do it. When you dream big and get it out on a vision board.
Yeah. Yep.
But then, even the app, you were mentioning that I'm an app designer, which I designed the app based on the concept of my book. And so we create vision boards through the app. But then as soon as you create it, the first step it does is it says, now let's walk it backwards to see how you're actually going to create actions to move towards that dream, to go towards that vision. So it's always taking the dream and the action together. So it's vision. And that's now I've put in my vocabulary is I create vision boards. I don't want just dream boards because I love to see them come true, knowing I have to put work in. Don't just sit there and go, I want a mansion. Oh, and magically appears. No, wrong answer.
Yeah.
What are you doing to move towards it as it's coming towards you?
Yeah. That's it's funny. It kind of reminds me, some people have had the saying, pray like it depends on God, work like it depends on you.
I love that.
And
that's why they're saying God helps those who help themselves. It doesn't just say God helps those.
Yeah, exactly.
It didn't stop right there.
Yeah. Yep. No, that's so true. And I love what you said just about being in a place of constantly learning, whether it's constantly learning or even just constantly reminding, because we can't hold all of this stuff in our, whatever they call that, the prefrontal cortex or wherever, our conscious mind is. It's like we constantly need to be in this place where we're able to receive, like you were able to experience, even if it's just sometimes that's all you need and all you can even handle, right? Is just a little tweak. And then the compound effect of that is monumental.
And that's the magic right there. Like even, and I'm going to kind of probably surprise some people with this because of what I'm about to say. A lot of the gurus out there say, don't do this. I love watching TV. And that saying that says, if you want
talk about it, testify.
yeah. The saying that says, if you want to be successful, shut the darn TV off. Wrong answer for me, because I know I love TV. And if I don't watch, I'm going to find ways to sabotage my success. So I find creative ways to allow myself to watch TV and still be very, very successful. And so one example is when I work out, I have a TV in my fitness center so that I know when I used to record things, now with Netflix and Prime and all that, there's no commercials, but I knew I could record 2 1-hour shows. And by the time I would do the workout with no commercials, it's an hour and a half workout and I was feeling great. And I got TV in at the same time. So I multitask. But my wife and I, one of our practices goes right to what you were just saying is we love watching series where I don't have to wait a week between episodes. We like to be able to watch one, 2 a night type thing so we can follow the storyline. But if we come back to a new series of a maybe the series and all of a sudden their new season came out. Before we start the new season, if it's been more than a couple months since we watched,
you got to watch all the old ones,
or we go back at least 2 or 3 episodes. And how many times do we go, I forget I even saw that. I didn't, thank goodness. And that's with learning as well. That's why I'm always still a student, because I love what you said. It's about not just learning, but relearning, rehearing it again. Because you're a different person in a different place. So you'll pick up nuances that you maybe didn't get the first time. So I'm always reviewing things like that. And because there's very dangerous words to your mind, which are, I know that. And that just gets your mind to shut down. Well, even if you know it, listen again.
Yeah, for sure. And what's great about some of these shows, I like my family and I, we just got done processing Downton Abbey. And oh my gosh, like there's a couple of reasons I would advocate for watching TV. And one is that we, especially, maybe not everybody's in this place where they're always feeling like they're trying to come up with solutions to problems or whatever. But I think what we discount, or we can tend to discount, is the power of our subconscious mind doing the processing. You know what I'm saying? And sometimes that's exactly what you need, is to shut down a little bit, the conscious, and just relax. And in the background, man, there might be something on that TV show that's completely unrelated, to whatever, but it triggers like, oh yeah, man.
And that's one of my tricks, because after, say, I'm on stage doing a training for 3 days, and before COVID, it was 3 to 5 days at a time, up to 12 hours a day on stage, anywhere from 100 to 6,000 students at a time in my audiences. And so at the end of 3 days, when I finish with the staff, because staff are so important. So many, when I train trainers, I tell them, I don't care who you are. I don't care how amazing you are. You will never be as effective by yourself as when you have that amazing team. So make sure you acknowledge and take care of those behind the scenes people that no one else ever gets to see, because they make you look good. So my last thing I always do after an event is I wrap up with the team to thank them, let them know how appreciative I am of all the work that they put in. Yeah. And it started because that's how I started, was, volunteering. Hours, 38 events a year for 2.5 years. My wife and I volunteered to stay in the energy and be of service. And so after that, though, I know my body starts to shut down and my mind starts to go racing. So one of my my habits is, as soon as I get back to my hotel room or where it is, I turn on a movie to go mindless, because I've heard my voice in speakers for 3 days, and I now want to just be able to just enjoy something, quiet my mind. And yes, that's when all of a sudden brilliance comes up. So I always have my phone beside me, and I'm always, one of my clues in my book is write it down. Never rely on, you get that brilliance hit, and all of a sudden, I got to remember that. What was it I was going to remember again? I can't remember. And so I'm constantly writing in my phone on my notepad, constantly, because I have it with me all the time. Or I do a voice recording, then I can let it go and go back to what I'm doing without going, dang, and I forgot about that again.
Yeah. And I got to just say, this is hilarious, because this is my journal entry from this morning. Okay. From this morning, I had this brilliant question go through my mind. How can I ... And that's all I can remember. Like, even if you're writing it down, man, like, I just wasn't fast enough writing it down. Like, I was halfway through the sentence and I couldn't remember the question I was asking.
And that's why people ask me, why did it take me 15 years to write my first book? Is because every time I'd sit down to write, all of a sudden it'd be like the brilliance would come through, but before I could get it down, it was gone, and I'd get frustrated, close the computer. And a couple weeks later, come back, same thing happened. And then, I finally had one of those aha moments. And Steve, do you know what a one-handed clap is?
I think so.
And so if someone's just listening on audio, I took my palm, hit my forehead. It's those aha moments. Yeah. And I realized, Robert, no wonder you're struggling writing your book. You've never written a book before. What do you know how to do? And I know how to design a training. So I took out my computer, I pulled up my template, because look, I don't even try to rely on doing it all myself. I have systems, I have templates in place. And I pulled up the template, a fill in the blanks template, and it took me 2 hours to design a one-day training based on what I wanted in my book. And the moment I did that, and I was on a hiatus at the time, I called up a student who now had a training company, and I said to him, hey, Colin, when's your next 3-day training? And he said, it's this date. Why? I said, well, would it be okay if I come down and teach the first day or one of the days? And he's like, are you kidding? I've been waiting for you to offer something like that. And I did that twice. Now I'm on the stage. I'm present. I'm in the moment. What I want to say, the brilliance is because I'm now connected to that higher power, whether you go by God, Great Spirit, whatever you want to go by. Yeah. I'm now in the flow, and it's all being recorded. I did that twice, sent it to my ghostwriter. It took her 2 weeks to put what I did on stage into the book format. Yeah. Now, all I had to do was go in, start reading and editing. You like this, expand on that, take that out, move that there. And the book was written just like that. And so it's, how do you get creative instead of fighting against yourself? Yeah. And I know, Steve, you with the guitars and loving to play music and teaching, I know you probably hit blocks all the time that then as soon as you put it down and you switch things up, all of a sudden you come back and you're just flowing again.
Yeah. Well, and to your point, because you're kind of talking about different mediums and expressing yourself through different mediums, I would certainly not call myself a piano player. I took lessons for a few years, but sometimes just sitting down at the piano can give you a completely or even just a different instrument altogether. Yes. A different guitar, whatever it is, just something that kind of gets you out of your normal mode to see and feel things differently. it brings on, it gives everything a whole new dimension, and it brings out, it's almost like these tools or whatever want to sort of express something through you. They're like,
Yes.
maybe there's a guitar that's like, oh yeah, he picked me. Now I get to sing my song through him, kind of a thing.
And that's the energy exchange, because we are all just energy in different
Mm,
vibrations of it. And when you're
yeah.
truly connected, you're connected. And that's why but to be clear, it takes practice. You're at a level
Mm,
you are with your guitars because you've put in the behind the scenes work,
yeah.
the hours of practice. That saying that a master 10,000 hours or 10,000 times to do something to become a master. Unfortunately, most people want the success without putting the work in.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
so you've got to be willing to do that. One of the most common questions I get when I'm on stage and that, people go, well, Robert, how do I do what you do? And I look
Mm.
at them, I say, if you want to do what I do what I do. The boring as hell,
Yeah, all of it.
unsexy, behind the scenes work that is, just you'd sit there and go, I wish I didn't have to do this. Well, how much do you
Yeah.
really want to be good at what you're doing?
Yeah.
And if you're really passionate about it, you'll put the work in until it becomes so what other people perceive as effortless,
Hmm.
because you've done the work. You've got the not only the the muscle memory, but the mind memory of just where it's now you're not having to think about it. You're actually to be able to be present with it and just let it be and flow. And that's where the
Yeah.
true beauty shines through.
Well, that's such a great point. And what it's making me think of is I just had this unbelievably amazing experience just a couple of days ago. And it sort of happened by happenstance that I went to this classical guitar maker. I'm not sure if you've heard of Segovia, but Andre Segovia, but he's like an iconic classical guitar figure. And this guy, he's a luthier. That's a guy who makes guitars, and man, he had this $200,000 guitar in a case.
Wow.
And I was like, and they're like, you want to play it? I'm like, yeah, you know.
Yeah.
And it's just, so you've got this piece of art, but can you imagine, had I never, like you said, never put in the hard work, like how frustrating that would have been to
Mhm.
just like, sure, I could say, oh, I'm holding this, $200,000 guitars in this grand, sure, but what can you do with it? And
That's right.
so the hard work, man. Yep, you
And
gotta.
and when you do the preparation, I love the saying that says opportunity favors the prepared,
Hmm,
because opportunities always coming our way, always.
yeah,
It's just, have you prepared yourself to receive it, or are you missing a lot of opportunities because you didn't put in the work, or you didn't think it was you needed to do that or to do this. And or a lot of people go, oh, I never get any opportunities. No,
hmm,
you're always getting them.
yeah,
What are you prepared to receive because you put the work in?
yeah, yeah, totally. Are you familiar with Stephen Pressfield's book, The War of Art?
No.
Yeah, it takes a second, like, wait a second,
Yeah.
art of war, war of
Or
art. Yeah,
yeah.
so he's talking about being an author and just how you've got to show up every day, and just, hey, whether the muse decides to show up or not, that's up to the muse, but don't
Yeah.
miss it by not showing up yourself.
Yeah.
So it's that day in, day out kind of stuff. This is so great. So these are some of the things that you're working towards. It's training. Um, why is this important to you? Why is, like, what got you on this
Yeah.
trail? You said started from humble beginnings. Yeah, tell us a little bit about that story.
Well, one of the many ways I'm blessed is my wife and I, we met when we were 13. We
Mm.
actually started dating when we were 16. She
Uh,
had noticed me before that, but I was like most males, not that I'm going to, put us in a category, but I was clueless, like a lot of guys can be. And I didn't
yeah.
know that she liked me.
Okay.
And she got my attention. All of a sudden, one day when we were 16, we started dating the next day. We got married 3 years later at the age of 19, and we're about to celebrate our 33rd wedding anniversary. And
Uh,
please don't do the math of how old I am. And both, she's the youngest of five, raised by a single mother. I'm the youngest of four. And we were raised in families where you go find the job that takes care of your family, gives you security, even if you hate it. If it's
yeah.
supporting your family, that's what you do.
Yeah.
But I've always been a kind of an entrepreneur mind, but I didn't know how to do that because I was so conditioned that you do a job. And from the way the world went, here I am 21, I'm still a newlywed, and I'm being laid off from my third job. And the only work I could find at the time, because of the economy, was delivering pizzas for Domino's Pizza. Because of my work ethic, I started, a little while later, I became a manager of a store. My wife became my assistant. And a year and a half later, we had the opportunity to buy the store we were working in. We didn't have any money, but we had passion, which is my favorite word in the whole world.
Yeah.
And we actually figured out a way to not buy one store, but buy both the stores my franchisee had for sale. And we did it with no money of our own. We did it with 100% financing, which was great. And we started making some good money. But our habits, coming from poor families especially, it's like, money? Ooh, let's keep up with the Joneses now. Spend. Money? Spend. And by the time we were 8 years, and Steve, this is probably, you've never heard of anyone this has ever happened to before. Yeah. But we started spending more money than we were earning. 8 years into franchise, we were now over $150,000 in personal debt, going down quickly and stressed out beyond belief. And that's when we were introduced to personal development. And a 3-day training changed our life. We ended up going in stressed out, $150,000 in debt. I'd say pulling my hair out. Well, I did have some then, so not much, but some.
You did a good job of pulling it all out.
And in that 3 days, we learned why we're in debt. But more importantly, we learned to take responsibility. I was good at blaming others for losing the money. So when we learned to take responsibility for our own debt, and then we learned some practical skills that could help us get out of debt, and we took that action word, the big A. We started putting some of the things into place. 9 months later, we ended up retiring at the age of 32, completely financially free. And my mind went, that worked. Because of how it worked, also my mind went, if I could help even one person do what my wife and I had done, because I realized I wanted to teach, I wanted to be a trainer. And if I could help one person go from financial stress to financial freedom, then it would be worthwhile. And I put the work in, and I started getting mentored. And like I said, for 2.5 years, my wife and I volunteered at every training we could just to learn the whole industry. And in 2004, I led my very first training on my own. I had 1,200 students in Los Angeles for a 3-day weekend. And since that time, I've now personally trained over 500,000 students around the world in trainings, and done over $100 million in sales from the stage. So done some good successful stuff at the same time that way too. And probably the biggest thing that's really resonated with me though is, here's what I love. When a student comes up to me and they say, and I've met students all over the world in the wildest of places, not just in the seminar room, and they come up and they go, do you remember when you said this? Well, here's how it changed my life. And I just get lit up with goosebumps. And that to me is one of the greatest feelings around. And so, I found my passion, and living my passion. Who would have known I would taught over 500,000 students? It started with that, if I could help one person.
That's so great. And so there's a couple of things that are coming up for me. And one of those things is, maybe somebody's listening to this and they're like, oh yeah, I want that. I want to be financially free. Doesn't that sound appealing, right? What kind of maybe pitfalls do we need to sort of avoid, or what kind of energy do we need to be in? You know what I'm saying? Because
absolutely,
if you're that far away from it and you're thinking that's going to be sort of your lifesaver kind of a thing, what kind of pitfalls or things?
Well, I'll tell you, for 2 more words, I told you about what's next. As soon as you make a decision, all of a sudden, all the what if scenarios are going to come in your head. Well, what if it doesn't work the way I think it should? Or what if it doesn't work as fast as I want? And you can get overwhelmed and not take any action. So 2 more very powerful words that my wife and I live by are all in. As soon as we make a decision, we're all in, because it's going to take work. And one of the first things I'm going to tell people is, don't try and do it on your own. Our minds will try to keep us right where we are. And so the moment we make a decision, it'll go, well, do you have the experience to do that? And just who the heck are you that thinks you can do that? It's going to come up with all these things. So be willing to be vulnerable enough to ask for help. Step number 2 in my book is find a mentor or someone to model from. Chances are, no matter what you want to accomplish, someone's done it before you. So find out how they did it. Be willing to invest in yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I tell people the kind of money I've spent, my wife and I, on our own personal development and continue to spend, and we don't spend it, we invest it, because to me that's the one investment we'll never lose on. And we have the lifestyle we have today because we've made those investments.
Yeah.
So don't try and do it on your own. Get a great coach or a great mentor. At the same time, ask yourself the question of, who could I be a mentor to? Because 3 very powerful things. Learn. When you learn something, okay, you get it one level. The moment you start doing it, it ingrains deeper. You get it on a deeper level. And then the third key is teach it.
Yeah.
This is why you want to mentor others, because the moment you start teaching it, have you ever noticed it goes even deeper? Like when you started playing guitar, I imagine you went to a whole new level when you started teaching others how to do it, correct?
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
So, and once you teach, what do? Well, you learn again. Learn, do, teach. Learn, do, teach. Learn, do, teach. You keep going through those things. And one of the biggest pitfalls that I've noticed for myself, and I can only speak for myself, but I've seen it in thousands and thousands of others, so it's kind of validated, is short-term thinking, instant gratification.
Yeah.
I want it now. What will I get now? And that was probably the biggest adjustment for my wife and I. Here we are deep in debt, and we had to go, okay, what don't we need now? Sure, we may want it, but what don't we need that if we were to let it go, we could get rid of the expense of it, which would make it easier to create the financial freedom in our life. So we started thinking more long-term. And so to give an example of that, one of the reasons we were in debt, one of our stores was in a resort community on a lake. And so since our house, and I say our house was on the lake, we had a little mobile home in a mobile home park, but it was on the lake. So we had a house on the lake, right? Yep. And well, if you live on the lake, you got to have a boat. So we bought a boat that we couldn't afford. The stupid thing was, our busy season for that store was, guess what? Boating season. So guess where the boat sat? In our driveway, looking pretty, not getting used, but we still had all the expenses. Yeah. So we made the decision, sell the boat, get rid of the expenses. We had 2 cars. We were always working at the store together. We only needed 1 vehicle, but don't successful people have 2 vehicles?
And 2 very nice ones?
I wasn't going to put that point in there, but yes, right? That only goes to reason. And so we made these tough decisions of what don't we need. And we took a tough look at, and we were willing to make those decisions to bring our expenses down. So at least now our investments had a fighting chance. Yeah. Yeah. And so that's a big pitfall. Is so many people, they want just instant gratification, but I want it now.
Well, I think what is so beautiful and amazing is this fact that you volunteered for, how long did you say, about 2 years?
Well, as I was learning to be a trainer, we still volunteer even today at different things because we love giving back. But yes, in the beginning, when I knew I wanted to be a trainer, 2.5 years, 38 events a year.
Yeah, exactly. And you said just to be around the energy that, I mean, I think that just shows a tremendous amount of maturity, just to recognize that, hey, even if I never made any money, like just the value of being in this energy, because I know, as a matter of fact, there was, so just to give our listeners a little context here, Robert here has trained a guy named Eric Frady, who led a Millionaire Mind Intensive here in Schaumburg, Illinois, several years ago that I went to. And oh my gosh, it was absolutely mind-blowing. And the energy there was absolutely incredible. And it was one of those places where I feel like this is home. I feel like this is church. I feel like this is, I mean, my spirit is coming alive. And there was a woman that came up to me afterwards, and she was just like, I love your energy. Cause I felt so grateful to be there that I was sharing constantly. Like every time, anybody would ask a question, I'd be like, oh, give me the mic. And so, yeah, just being in that energy, being around that. And man, I think that's just, but that wouldn't be anybody's, like, who'd be willing to commit to that, So
well, yeah. And look, I don't want people to go, wow, he's amazing that he did that. There was a selfish reason for it as well. Because environment is stronger than willpower. And I know I am a procrastinator.
Mm.
I am a world-class gold medalist procrastinator. If it was a sport, I'd be winning medals all over the place.
Yeah.
And I used to battle that and fight it and make it a bad thing. But the moment I accepted and went, you know what, it's part of who I am, then I was now in a space to say, so how do I utilize the procrastination knowledge in my favor? And that's like one of my quotes, why I love is, I design my day in such a way that procrastination cannot play.
Mm.
And even back then, before I even had this understanding, my wife and I knew that we could be in a seminar for 2, 3, 4, 5 days, jacked up, great, beautiful environment. We'd go home, and within a couple of weeks, our energy would be down. We'd be back in the same old. So we said, how do we create the reality? And we're like, well, we're now financially free. So why don't we, and we have the ability, we were living in our RV at the time, why don't we travel and be there to volunteer? Because the selfish reason was, now that we were consistently in this energy, we had no choice. We were in the environment of growth instead of the environment of woe is me.
Yeah,
and
lack.
That's what spurred our growth so much even more, because now, and we are being of service. There was, I'm a big person on this, is because I know logistics inside and out. And my wife, as I became a trainer, she became a logistics a supervisor, an event supervisor. And for us at the time, a small room was 1,500, 2,000 people in a training. And so she'd have 60 plus brand new volunteers every time. Because big events take a lot of people.
Yeah.
But our number one rule was this. We'd sit down with the staff at the beginning. We'd have a conversation. We'd say, we want to let you know something. If you cannot be here of service completely, if you have another agenda, we're going to ask you to leave now. No hard feelings. It's just that the students, they deserve everybody being here of service. And some people, they do come in with an agenda. And you can tell very quickly, like, hey, can you go and grab this for me? Well, no, I want to stay in the room because I want to hear him say this. That's an agenda. And there was more times than we could say that where, during an event, even if we were shorthanded, we actually had to ask someone to leave because it wasn't being of service. They were there with that agenda. And we don't get angry about it. It's just, we be as polite as we can, but it's like, look, the students, they're the ones we're here for. You obviously have another reason for here. And so we appreciate the help you've done, but we're going to ask you to leave because that doesn't serve the students if we don't. And so the learning journey that we were on really showed us. And because being of service is so, here's what people don't realize, Steve. When you're truly of service, you'll be blown away the situations you get put in where you learn something you never expected to learn, which was better than anything you can learn by being a student. Some of my best learns came from being behind the scenes, being of service.
That's so powerful, man. Be in the energy, be of service. I'm kind of letting that one sink in.
That was actually what got me on stage as a trainer the first time. I'm sitting there at a 5-day event. It's the second day. We're in a camp situation. And, you're speaking of Millionaire Mind Intensive, T. Harv Eker.
Yeah.
He sees me. He goes, Robert, come here. I said, yeah. He says, get in my car. I said, okay. We hop in. I go, what's going on? He says, are you ready? I'm like, am I ready for what? He says, I'm creating a new course and we've got our guest speaker on tonight. I need you to go on stage and take 5 minutes and just thank him at the end, give some instructions, send everybody to bed. You think you can do that? Inside, I'm going, ah! On the outside, I'm going, I think so. I can do that.
Sure, I got that.
Let's go to Richard Branson. Just say yes and figure it out later.
Yeah.
But that 5 minutes, and this is why I say, Steve, that 5 minutes can change your life. And it wasn't until years later, because now I'm his very first protege, first person to ever train his trainings other than him, went on to train almost all the trainers around the world that they use to teach his material. And, it's years later, we're sitting down having dinner one night after an event. And he goes, do you know why I put you on stage that very first time? And I said, no idea. And he said, it's because I could not ignore you anymore. He says, you were always showing up and being of service. He says, I remember I'm on the stage, we're at a break, and you're running a meeting off to the side with some of the students. He says, I'm trying to talk to a student, but I can't pay attention to them because your presence is so amazing. I keep looking over to how you're running the meeting. He said, and then in that moment, because I knew I needed help to be able to do the creating I needed. He said, in that moment, I decided I'm putting you on stage that night.
Man.
And that started my whole training career.
Yeah. And That's so awesome, because it's like that was certainly not your intention.
Nope.
It was just
Nope.
just to serve. And man, that's I think that's a hard pill to swallow, or just to, if that's a hurdle to overcome for people. Like, yeah, boy, the glory stuff, that looks really good. Give me some of that. The hard work, the sort of the showing it, the volunteering. What are you, nuts?
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't necessarily have to be that, but it just that heart to want to.
Yes.
And I think an important distinction is, because I think sometimes with coaches or people that want to make some kind of a impact, is when we think of showing up doing service, we're thinking of the spotlight kind of stuff. We think of that as, oh, that's our service, as opposed to now we're just showing up to totally be in the background, run and get a glass of water, whatever the case, whatever the need is. I'm going to show up and help out just because I love being here.
Yeah. And that's it. And you can learn so much about a person. I learned so much watching other people volunteer. Even before I was set to do my first training, we're in Orlando, Florida. And I'd been at a training earlier in the year where, I had been told, and Harvard said, look, I'm going to get you to we have 10 camps this summer. I can't be at all of them. So I'm going to need you to train some. And I'm like, awesome. And he said,
Yep.
But I don't know if you're ready. He said, so there's a gentleman years ago, I took one of his courses and I want him to co-train with you. And my ego, a lot of people go, oh, but my ego is like, put me on stage, coach. I'm ready to go. I don't care if I have to co-train with someone. I'm in, right? But something told me, and because I was very present, I said, well, he's been out of our energy. He hasn't been in our trainings except for helping out here. I said, so we have a big event in LA and one in Orlando 2 weeks in a row. Wouldn't it be good to have him there as a staff member, as a volunteer? Because at this time there was no paid staff. It was all volunteers, just to see how he does.
Yeah.
And the initial reaction is, I'm not paying to fly him. And I said, hey, it's just a suggestion. But before he leads your students, this is what I'm thinking. Yeah. And so I must have said something that impacted him, because he went, okay, fine, we'll do it. And this gentleman showed up at the two events, and we did LA first. And I could see a little bit of arrogance and ego, and I'm better than other people. But it really showed up in Orlando, when all of a sudden there was a prop that we didn't have, that had been missed. And we had like 15 minutes to get it. And it was a teacup. And the venue, were at a big, the Orange County Convention Center, and there's no teacups. And so we had to run to a restaurant and see if we could borrow one. And his whole attitude was, I ain't doing that. And me and someone who ended up being the first trainer I ever trained, him and I were like, well, let's go. And we just started booting it. We're out of the convention center. We're running. It's like 6 o'clock at night. We're hauling butt. And we get to a restaurant where we're just like, look, let's put a deposit. We'll bring it back to you. And they're like, hey, obviously you got it. And we made it work because we knew the importance of it.
Yeah.
Well, from that one incident, all of a sudden at the end of the event, when there was being a debrief between Harv and this person, he went, by the way, here's your contract. You're not training this summer. And the guy's like, well, why not? He says, because if you couldn't even serve, how are you going to serve?
Yep.
And all of a sudden, and it was not my intention, but all of a sudden that summer, I ended up leading the events on my own instead of having to do it as a co-trainer with the other person. And that was definitely not even part of my mindset. But, seeing when you put people under pressure, I love my Zen teacher says this. She goes, you can only tell how strong a tea bag is once you put it in hot water. And that's the same thing for people, right?
Yeah.
Is once you put the pressure on, put them in the heat, then you get to really see who they are. And you get to really see, are you there of service, or are you there for your own agenda?
Yeah. Yeah. Boy. Yep. It'll bring it out, man. The good, the bad, the ugly, the wonderful. Yeah, man.
Yeah. And lessons in everything, of course.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, have you ever brought Mary? What? I forgot the pig's name already.
Gracie May.
Gracie May. You ever brought her to a training and used her as an object lesson?
Well, not to the trains, because I was usually in the U.S. and we can't cross the border with her. She is considered livestock.
Okay.
But we actually had her down at a camp that was here in Canada, and that's where she met other pigs for the first time and
Oh,
didn't
that's
want
right. You
anything to
mentioned.
do with them. Yeah, and it was funny because all the students would be like, "Oh, we've heard about her. We got to meet her," and
Yeah.
she was just like 1 year
Everybody's
old
doing
or 2 years
selfies
old.
with Gracie May.
Pretty much. And she was like the star. So yeah,
Yeah.
she is a princess for sure.
Yeah. That's so cool. Um, Robert, let's see. This is so amazing. I feel like we could talk for days. Let's maybe wrap it up with any like last little tidbit of wisdom as far as like, and if anybody's struggling to want to go after their dreams or thinking whatever it is, imposter syndrome or I'm not good enough, worthiness issues, whatever it might be, any kind of advice you could give to encourage people to really go after their dreams, what would that be?
Yeah, and Steve, I'm going to say something that some people might think is putting pressure on them, but I don't want them to take it this way. First of all, I believe that the greatest gift that anybody can give this planet is to be yourself in all authenticity. Because when you're yourself, either people are going to like you for who you are or people aren't. Yeah. And if they like you for who you are, that's awesome. If they don't like you for who you are, that's awesome.
Yep.
How much time
now you don't have to please them.
And right, when we try to please others. And the part that people may think is a pressure is that if you're still breathing, you've got a gift to give the world. And the question is, are you truly giving it? And it's a lesson that changed my life years ago, where it's talking about each and every one of us is a piece of a puzzle. And it's once we find what our piece is, what our gift is, the reason we're here on this planet. And when we put our piece in place, it automatically, unconsciously gives 1,000 more people permission to put their piece of their puzzle in place. And so even if you're thinking that you may not have importance to this world, if you didn't, you wouldn't be breathing. God would have, taken care of that. And when I don't want a person to go, oh, what 1,000 people, I can't take that pressure. This is just you being you and giving your gift however that looks. Yeah. You have no control of who the 1,000 people are or how it will impact or how they'll get it. It's just you living your passion and your gift sends out a vibration that gives others permission. It can be people on the other side of the world. Yeah. All connected. So live your gift and be you and watch. Yeah, I'm not going to say it's going to be easy. Life has its ups and downs. But when you're authentic and you're living your gift, you'll be amazed at the people who are attracted to your energy and want to be of service with you. Yeah,
man. And that's so powerful. And just to not get overwhelmed by the amount of impact. I mean, if you think about a puzzle piece, like at the most, there's like maybe four or five other pieces that connect to that one, and everything else works itself out. But that's such a powerful image to think about. If you're hesitating, if you're waiting to commit to being yourself, then
all in, baby. All in.
Yeah, you got to be all in, because then all the other puzzle pieces are going to be like, I don't know where I go. I don't know where I go. You put yourself in. Oh, now it makes sense.
And the reason it works too is because what people don't realize is that in every moment of your day, Steve, you're impacting the people around you, whether you know it or not. And one of two things is happening. You're either affecting them, lifting them up with your greatness, or you're infecting them with your mediocrity. And a lot of people, and it's just my belief, that one of the reasons we have the kind of turmoil we have on the planet nowadays is way too many people are living mediocre lives. They're not stepping into their greatness. And I'm not saying with arrogance, I'm saying with confidence. That this is who I am. And, it's those four pieces. You said it so well, because it may be only four pieces directly around you, but when you live into your greatness and all of a sudden they get the permission that, I can go for my dreams, I can be me. Well, there's 4 or 5 people that are connected to them, 4 or 5 people connected to them, and it grows. So for the 1,000 that you will impact, each of them will then, once they find their place, that's 1,000 more each. Do the math. Yeah. And not to overwhelm you, but just to, if you ever doubt how important you are, just take the deep breath in and put your hand over your heart and just say, I am important.
Yeah. Yeah. I've got a song called You Are the Difference. And when I do live trainings, I have people say, I am the difference. I have them get up on stage and say, I am the difference. And
Nice.
what's really amazing is how hard it is for people to say that, because people want to say, oh, I can make a difference, or I will make a difference. No, I am the difference right now.
Yep.
So yeah, man. Well, where can we get a hold of you? What's the best way to get a hold of you?
Well, and I'm going to say this too, Steve. If like you said, you and I could talk for hours. If you
Mm,
ever want me to come back, just ask. I will be here. I love having a conversation with you.
yeah.
And there's going
Thank
to be
you.
someone I want to introduce you to who is probably as much of a guitar aficionado as you are, and you two would probably be able to talk for
Yeah,
hours
yeah.
and hours. And but for people to get a hold of me, what I'd love to do is I believe that our time is one of our most precious commodities. And the fact that you've taken your valuable time to interview me, and just as important and even more important, your audience has taken the time to listen to two guys just having a conversation.
Yeah.
I so appreciate that.
Yeah.
And so, as a gift from us to them, what I'd love for them to be able to do, my book, Success Left a Clue, is they can go to just my name, robertriopel.com, and they
Okay.
can actually download the entire digital copy as our gift to them.
Wow.
Now, that comes with a caveat, though, Steve.
Okay.
I didn't write the book for people to read it or to get it, put it on the shelf and make it shelf help. That's
Right.
not
Ooh,
why
shelf
I
help.
wrote it. Yeah, good
Yeah.
God, my joke, as bad as
I
it
love
was.
it.
Because step 3 is take action. All over the
Mhm.
world that I've traveled, the one biggest difference I see between success and non-success, successful people take action. So I
Yeah.
wrote this as a workbook, meaning
Okay.
there's action steps all the way through. And being my quirky self, because I am a goofball, I even say sometimes, hey, did you do the last action? If not, go back right now, do the action before you read any further. And
Yeah.
so,
Yep.
because I know people are creatures of habit. And I'm going to make a promise to your audience. If they download the book and they read it and do the action steps, they will take their life to another level. I
Mhm.
guarantee it.
Yeah.
And, as an extra little special thing for them, when they download the book, because I'm in my giving back phase right now, I've led a very, very blessed life. And so what I'm doing is, because I'm not traveling 500 or 200,000 miles a year around the world right now, I'm at home, is I'm actually, people will then be able to book in to have a 20-minute one-on-one strategy session with me,
Mm.
where, because they'll fill out a questionnaire, I'll know a bit about them, where they're struggling, and I'm going to be able to give them in 20 minutes. I'm going to be able to download from my years of experience things that they can do to take their life to the next level. And it will be one-on-one with me, and there's no selling on it. It's
Yeah.
just me being of service to give and help people in any way I can.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and for our listeners, like, I mean, we've only been talking a while, and already, I mean, and you haven't been coaching me. I haven't been coaching you. It's just like all this great stuff is coming out. Can you imagine 20 minutes of just being coached? And oh my gosh, the great takeaways. So unbelievably generous gift. Thank you so much. I'll have in the show notes, so people can either go to robertriopel.com, or they can go to thedreamhighway.com/82. The number 82 will have the link in there as well.
Nice.
Don't do it right now if you're driving.
Hands on the wheel.
We can wait. We can wait for you. But Robert, thank you so much for taking, your time out to do this. This has been such a blessing. I've enjoyed this immensely. Super appreciate it. And I will take you up on your offer to have you back hopefully soon.
Excellent.
And
My pleasure.
yeah, so take care for now, and we'll catch you all next time on the Dream Highway.